If you have a true scary story, like a glitch in the Matrix you'd like to send my way, just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. I promise it's working again, I broke it and I have fixed it since. Also, fun fact before we get into the stories, today is officially my channel's 4th birthday. December 4th, 2019, I created this channel. So, happy birthday to Raven. I have a bit of a silly glitch that I wanted to share with you, as it was weird and I really don't know what to make of it. It's not scary at all, it's not even that eventful, and I'll try not to make it too long, but it's the only glitch that I've had happen to me, so I guess I'm a bit excited to share it. I've never experienced anything paranormal or anything, so this was a bit of a shock. To start it off, I guess I should explain the situation a little bit. I live in an apartment with my cousin, so it's just me and her that are ever here. She doesn't really bring anyone over, I don't bring people over, so there's no way that a third party is involved in what happened. I'm a bit of a water snob. I don't like tap water at all. The tap water here is too hard, and when I drink it, it gives me really bad tonsil stones, which is just gross. So, I don't drink it. I used to buy cases of water bottles, but I started feeling bad about all the plastic waste that I was producing, so I instead bought one of those big 5-gallon jugs from Walmart. It's one of the ones that you can bring back to Walmart and pay to refill with the Primo brand water, which is very heavily filtered. I also bought a water pump for it from Amazon for like $15, and I keep the jug in my room on my desk. It's been an absolute godsend for me, and it makes a lot less waste. So, I'm happy. My cousin isn't like me at all when it comes to this kind of stuff, and she makes fun of me for it, meaning she doesn't come into my room to use it or anything like that. I also have about 20 bottles of water in my room for the times when the big jug gets empty and I need to go to Walmart to fill it, just as a kind of temporary backup. Okay, that all put out there, here's the glitch. Last week, I was homesick for most of the week. I caught a bug that thankfully was not COVID, but it was enough to knock me down for 3 days. I'm grateful that I had the sick time and was able to stay home because I was miserable. During this time, I ended up drinking a lot of water, because I was feeling non-stop thirsty. Unfortunately, on day 2 of me being sick, I ended up drinking the last of my 5 gallons. Feeling like I wasn't going to go to Walmart to refill it yet, because I didn't think I would be able to carry it out of the store full without falling over. I took the pump off, replaced the cap on the bottle, and pulled my case of water bottles out from under my desk so that I had them easily accessible. I got through 1 or 2 of those bottles before passing out for the night. Here's where the glitch happened, and I honestly cannot explain it. When I woke up the next morning, I was groggy, a bit out of it, but I got up and went to the bathroom to do my routine. When I came out, I reached for a bottle of water, which was sitting on my desk right by my 5-gallon jug, but paused. The jug that was empty just the night prior was now about 1/3 of the way full. I swear I stared at it for like 5 minutes, trying to piece together the whole situation. I know it was empty. I had tilted it to suck all the water out of it with the pump, and it was completely dry. I had taken the pump off to put it on the USB charger, which I only do when it's empty. Yet it was sitting there in front of me with close to 2 gallons left. The pump was still plugged in, and the cap was still on it. So it wasn't like I just imagined taking it off when it was empty. A few things to kind of cover the logical possibilities. First, I know for a fact that it was completely empty. It's obvious when it's empty. The bottle weighs nothing. You can see the water level as the plastic is clear with a slight blue tint. Plus, like I mentioned, I had tilted it to get the last of the water out. If it still had 2-ish gallons in it when I was using it, I would not have been able to do that. One thought that I had was maybe my cousin had refilled it, but that wouldn't make sense. When you refill it, you pay for the full 5 gallons. So for her to sneak into my room while I'm asleep, grab the water jug, take it to Walmart, pay for 5 gallons of water, and then fill it with 2, and then sneak it back into my room without me noticing, it just doesn't work. The water that was in it was definitely not tap water. It was absolutely the filtered water that comes from the Primo machines. I tested it with my little ppm meter that I have from back when I had a zero water pitcher, which got broken when we moved in, and the meter read that it was 12, versus the couple hundred ppm that comes from the sink. I did this because I also had that thought that maybe she'd filled it with the sink water just to mess with me. I also asked her if she'd filled it, and she told me that she hadn't. If she was playing a prank, I feel like she would have fessed up to it. Otherwise, there was no reward for the risk. So, by the end of this, I had 2 gallons of water in my jug, with no way for it to have been filled. But yet it was. Like I said, this isn't scary at all, I know, just really weird and I really cannot explain it. If anyone has any thoughts, I would love to hear them, because I'm at a point where I'm 99% certain that this is a glitch in the Matrix, albeit a rather boring one. So, this just happened to me a few weeks ago, and I finally got the chance to sit down and write this out. I've been going on some dates here and there, trying to find someone to spend the holidays with. I matched with this one guy and we started talking pretty quickly. He was really nice and funny, and his quips and way of talking actually reminded me of myself. I thought that we jived really well, so when he asked for the first date, I was pretty excited. Onward to the first date, which was a little over a month ago. We had a great time. He told me about how he worked at some big data company, like he worked on servers or something for them. He joked about his family because he was smack dab in the middle of a whopping 9 kids, but talked about how he didn't want kids. I don't either, so I thought that that was a relief. He talked about where he lived and how he had a weird neighbor, and again, made a long joke about how he acts like he's undercover and made up this whole story about him. He told me about one of his favorite hobbies, which was resin work. He made custom dice, containers, vases, all sorts of things. In fact, he showed me a keychain that he'd made. Overall, it was a great night, and I was already preparing for a second date with him. We continued talking, and we had a date planned, but then I got sick, so we had to postpone. We finally got to have our second date, and that's when things got weird. We went to a restaurant that I had never been to, but when I walked in, I immediately got this feeling of déjà vu. At first I thought, okay, no big deal, that's happened before, and just proceeded to find my date in the crowd. He greeted me and I made my way over to the table. Just like our first date, he complimented my outfit and made the same cheesy line of it matching my eyes. But then, our conversation was the same from our first date, nearly word for word. He asked me how my day went, specifically with one of my classes. I'm taking an optional course for my work, which he also asked me on our first date. Then he asked me more about my job, the same questions that he'd asked before. I recall that because I hate having to repeat myself, like when people aren't listening, so normally repeating something like that would annoy me, but he seemed to genuinely be asking, like we had never mentioned it before. So I asked about his job, phrasing it like I already knew, because I did. And I asked, "You work on data servers, right?" He looked at me curiously, almost as if he was trying to remember if he told me, but the way that he explained it was the exact same. He told me about his siblings, telling me the same things he told me the first time. Our conversation turned to hobbies and free time, and he mentioned his resin work, and once again pulled out his keychain to show me. It was actually really unsettling at the time, and it made me think that maybe I'd had a really lucid dream or something. But he even mentioned this being our second date, so this was definitely happening for a second time. I even tried to see if I could sway the conversation, and I asked about the restaurant since I wasn't familiar with it, but he would then end up asking me questions from our first date, and it would go right back to where we were. It was such a weird feeling, and I couldn't understand what was happening. I eventually stopped trying to fight it, and just went along with the night, pretending like I had never heard the things that he was telling me, and like I'd never told him the things I did that night. When we finished for the night, he walked me to my car, and we talked about getting together again, and I agreed. He was still a great guy, but that date was just odd. We've been talking ever since, and he suggested another date. This time not at a restaurant, so I'm hoping that it won't happen a third time. But the whole date still confounds me, and I have no explanation for it. I haven't heard of whole days or conversations being repeated in that sense, but it definitely seems like a glitch, or a replay in reality. I'll let you know if our third date repeats, because I may have to ask him about it too. And hopefully it confirms that I'm not crazy. Hello, Raven. My husband and I are longtime listeners, and you're usually the last thing we listen to as we fall asleep. Well, thank you. Well, this story is a little bit different than the usual glitches. Ever since my husband and I got together 11 years ago, we've had your everyday glitches happen more times than we can count. We're talking keys, wallet, phone, pen, insert item name here going missing, and then turning up where we know for a fact it never could have been. Or we'd already checked multiple times to know it was never there. Sometimes it would happen once a month, sometimes once a week. And at one point, after my mom passed away almost 3 years ago, it was happening multiple times a day. Recently, whatever entity has been having fun with this has decided to finally start messing with my sister. All three of us live together. She's never had anything like this happen before. She's 38. And these things didn't happen to neither my husband nor myself until we started hanging out. But that's just a little backstory for this one. Every time we had a misplaced item, it was just that, an item. But this day was going to be different. Around April, May of 2022, my husband and I had a pretty big argument. I can't even remember what it was about, but I know it was something trivial. We were all still dealing with my mom's sudden passing the year before, and had other family drama going on, just adding to our stress. So we just had a moment where we blew up at each other, and we each went to our corners, so to speak. I won't say to cool off. This was one of those stupid arguments where neither of us wanted to admit we were wrong and apologize. So we just stormed off. After a few hours, my sister comes to ask me if I knew where my husband was, since he was supposed to give her a ride to the store, but she couldn't find him. The car was here, and she also couldn't reach him on his phone. I pull the phone out and do the Find My for his phone. He has a bad habit of forgetting where he puts his phone or the car keys, so we keep location services on and have an AirTag attached to the car keys. I find his phone with his wallet and keys in the garage, so we know that he didn't go anywhere. We don't have a big house, just 2 floors, so there's not too many places he could be. After searching the house and yards, we still don't find him. I'm just about to start calling people that he may have tried to walk to or called for a ride when we hear someone calling out from the laundry room. Something to know about this room: the door is a bit warped, so it sticks really bad. There's no way to open or close it completely without everyone in the house hearing it. My sister and I had already checked this small room that only has the washer, dryer, and desk for sewing crafts and a chair. We turned out the light, closed the door completely, and moved on. When we heard the voice coming from the laundry room, the door was still closed tight. We hadn't even left the downstairs, and the light was still off. We open the door and turn on the light to find my husband sitting in the room, looking like he just woke up from an awkward nap. He had no idea how he'd gotten in there, and he was not there when we had checked. The last thing he remembered was putting his phone, wallet, and keys on the workbench in the garage, and then waking up in the dark not knowing where he was, and he started to call out. So, like I said, items disappearing and reappearing are commonplace for us. But my husband disappearing and reappearing? I only hope that it does not happen again. Hello. I submitted to you a story about 5 months ago about my town's shopping schedule and the signal tower on my way to my old high school and current evening school. Yes, you did. And I read it. The first event goes as such, for a little refresher. There was a signal tower near my town's second cemetery and the second mass grave memorial. The tower had a steady red light that you could see only through the night. When asked, my sister, her friends, classmates, and parents say that it has always been there. But for me, it hadn't. It appeared in April of 2023, and onwards. At first, I thought something bad might have happened to me on my trip to Italy. Which brings us to why I'm writing to you again. The tower has now disappeared. September of 2023 up to now, November 22nd, 2023, the tower isn't there. I've passed that road 5 times by now, and it was all between dusk and nighttime. There's no sign of it anywhere. I've asked my family and my sister's friend, and they cannot seem to recall such a tower ever existing. I haven't asked my classmates yet because I'm a bit scared they might think I'm losing it. And, just to add fuel to the fire, this school year feels wrong. Classes felt wrong. Relationships between my classmates felt wrong, and the behavior of the teachers are a bit odd. I have a teacher who I have struggled with being able to keep up and understanding his lessons, and his behavior towards me when I try to participate or ask questions about the classes. And the facial expressions he's making, and even some comments, have made me feel as if I'm dumb. I have dyslexia and ADHD, and his lessons and way of teaching make them flare up in such an annoying way. Last year, his aura was pine green, but this year his aura was different. Most days it was grayish black. Until today, his aura had changed to a violet pink. To add something a bit more, the whole wrongness that I feel, I'm not the only one. My dad and my sister feel it too. Dad was the first to voice it one afternoon as we were driving to school, and he complained about how this school year feels so wrong. My sister agreed but couldn't pinpoint why. Then, I added that I too felt that it was wrong and said that my new classroom feels unbalanced, and that our dynamic as a class is off in comparison to last year's. No one new was added. Last year it felt like a small family, but now I sense something cold and dark. The atmosphere is tense with some classmates, and my communication with them feels far harder to achieve and for conversation to flow. It's been months. Another teachers of ours noted how we all bonded so quickly as a class, and the new 2nd grade, we are the 3rd grade now, hasn't come close like we had. Yes, I sense the bond between my classmates. It does feel like a family, but the dark, cold, and tense feeling is there looming over us. I hear passive-aggressive comments from classmates toward each other, or about classmates when they're not in the room, and it breathes an air of distrust in me. And to tie everything in a nice little bow, I sensed the same disconnect and dark energy in last year's 3rd grade, when they were in the very same classroom as we are now, last year. A few of the odd things that have happened since my post about the tower are surviving COVID for the 2nd time, me too, experiencing an earthquake that felt like an explosion that pushed me from sitting on my bed to laying down on it, and with its force, I hit my head on the wall. And then throughout the day, we had multiple smaller earthquakes. There have been multiple wildfires surrounding my area, and yet nothing getting harmed. Surviving a Category 5 storm while traveling across my country, which later turned into a tornado that destroyed my dad's hometown and flooded my country with water that could fill the Sahara Desert up to 25%. Then, a week later after the storm turned tornado, at night my sister and I, along with our dad, were awakened by the sound and flashing of lights and thunder. A cyclone and storm were hitting our town at 3 a.m. The sky was lit up violet and blue as we rushed to gather the laundry and seal the windows. The next day, when I referred to the events, no one knew what we were talking about. I was almost run over by a car, but my sister pulled me aside. There was an explosion that happened in my city for what reason nobody knows, and we had the northern lights appear over my country, something that hasn't happened before. All of these oddities and wrongness, yet at the same time in some other areas of everyday life, the feeling of rightness. It has me wondering if I changed timelines again. Did I return to an old timeline? So, what do I make of these events? My only theory is that somehow any of these events killed me, returned me, or got me to an old timeline. And I say old timeline because it feels as if I have been here before. Events that I referred to my parents in the past, and they had no memory of happening, are now being told as if they are a staple family story. And when I try to take credit for reminding them of said event, I'm being corrected as if they always knew about it. So, any thoughts? Okay, so I've never been particularly convinced that we are living in a simulation, but I came across this topic months ago, and it has fascinated me ever since. A few months ago, I had a bit of a strange experience that I still cannot explain, and I figured I would share it here, so here goes. For some context, I do not do any drugs, and I was definitely not drunk, and I'm not someone who enjoys getting drunk. At most, I drank a glass of wine with dinner, but this happened hours after I drank my glass of wine that night, and even if it wasn't, I was still definitely not drunk. So, a few months ago, I, 21, female, was preparing for a trip to Disney World. I had done some shopping at Target before the trip, and one of the things I had bought was 2, keep that in mind, containers of body scrub to have a little self-care day on the trip. I bought these weeks before leaving for the trip. I set them both on my desk and left them there. Fast forward to the day of the flight, and I was packing my suitcase. I went to go grab the body scrubs, but only one of them was there. I could have sworn that I bought two of them, and I put them both in the same place. I looked under my desk to see if it fell, but it wasn't there. So I figured maybe it was hiding under something. My desk is kind of messy after all. So I tore apart my desk, but still no body scrub. I even went downstairs to see if I left it there for whatever reason, but it wasn't there either. Let me tell you, I looked every possible place that it could have been. I'm not sure how it could have happened that one body scrub was exactly where I knew I had left it, but the other one was literally nowhere to be found. This wasn't like a normal case of losing something, because normally when we lose something, it turns up eventually in a place that makes sense. I swear on my life, I looked every possible place this body scrub could have ended up, but it's almost like it vanished into thin air. Eventually, I gave up and accepted that I would only be able to take one of my body scrubs to Orlando with me. It wasn't a huge deal, just annoying that I found one of the body scrubs but not the other, even though, again, they were both on my desk. A few hours later, around 1 a.m., I was still awake. I'm a night owl, so this is completely normal for me. And I found myself thinking about that dang body scrub again. I decided that it wouldn't hurt to look one more time. So, I turned my light on and tore apart my desk again. Still no body scrub to be found. The other one was packed in my suitcase, ready to go to Orlando with me, but the second one, for all I knew, it grew legs and walked away. Eventually, I just accepted defeat, knowing that I should probably go to bed soon so I could get some sleep before hopping on the plane. Continuing to look probably would have just made me more frustrated. I'm a pretty rational person, and I'm not one to come to conclusions like this, but I had no other explanation. I was almost convinced that I had somehow tricked myself into thinking I bought two body scrubs at Target that day, but I really only bought the one. I couldn't think of anything else that could have happened. If it had fallen off my desk, I would have found it under my desk. And it's not like any of my family members would have just gone into my room and stolen it because, well, they just wouldn't do that. To this day, I still have not found that second container of body scrub, and I still don't know what happened to it. But this was the strangest experience of losing something that I've ever had. That's for sure. This is a story that happened to me in 2011. At the beginning of 2011, I broke up with my boyfriend of 6 years in a very messy and painful end to our relationship. I was in a lot of pain for at least 6 months. Towards the end of the year, I started feeling better, more like the self that I used to be before that long relationship. During Christmas 2011, I visited my mom in Mexico. I live in Canada, and I try to visit my mom at least once a year. Mexico City is a mystical place, and reality alters when I visit. One day I woke up from the most wonderful dream that I'd had in years. I should say beforehand that I am a serious lucid dreamer. In my dreams, I fly, I shapeshift, and I explore the many dimensions of the dream time. I studied shamanic dreaming for some years, and I spend serious time in the dream time. Sometimes I spend weeks or even months in the dream time, only to wake up the next day in waking reality. This is very confusing, and I need several hours to remember who I am in this waking world. Well, this holiday season in 2011, at my mom's place in Mexico, I spent 3 months in the dream time with a wonderful person that I was completely in love with. He was half Dutch, he worked with computers, and he had a reddish beard, even though his hair was brown. I felt so safe and secure and loved that I was sad when I woke up. I missed the person from my dreams, and the feelings that I was experiencing. I told the dream to my mother, remarking how strange it was that this person worked with computers since all of my previous relationships have been with artist types. Fast forward to the new year, in 2012, and I met a very nice guy on a dating website. He was sweet, he was funny, and we hit it off from the beginning. We started dating the same week. Slowly, the pain from my last breakup dissolved, and I was left with a very warm feeling of safety and security. Around Valentine's Day 2012, this guy grew a beard, and then I recognized him. He was the guy from my dream. He is half Dutch. He does work with computers, and his beard is reddish. Most of all, I recognized the feelings that I had felt in that dream. A love that was warm and safe. And now, we've been married for 10 years. So, this happened about 2 or 3 months ago. I've been working at this hotel for 7 months now, and I'm very familiar with the routine. One day I'm cleaning my rooms and I'm doing pretty well on time, and I'm in my 4th room at this point. I'm about to finish this room and it's almost break time, which means that it's almost noon. I go out to my cart to push it into that room so that it's not in the hall while I break, which is a safety precaution. I pick up my clipboard so I can bring it to my boss like we do every break, so that she can put the clean rooms into the system, and oddly enough, I haven't marked any rooms off. Although I definitely remember doing them and marking them off as I went. I'm so confused at this point and think to myself, maybe I just forgot to mark them off after all. So, I go back to double check the rooms as we're trained to do if we forget to mark them down, just to ensure that we don't have any uncleaned rooms left by mistake. I was in complete shock when I walked back into each one of these rooms, and none of them had been cleaned. The beds weren't made, the trash cans were still filled, etc. But they were stripped of the dirty linen, so I had definitely been in there. Just, what? Even more odd, all the doors were closed, but once we stripped the rooms of the old linen, we flipped the door stoppers to leave the door cracked for when we can come back to clean them. When we clean the rooms, we start at one end of the hall and work our way down. So, even if I had a lapse in memory, why would I start in the middle of the hallway? Not to mention, what would I have even been doing for the last 3.5 hours of work? I wasn't assigned to do anything but rooms that day, so I couldn't have been doing something else. I go down on break still confused. I give my boss my clipboard and she asked me if I was okay and why I didn't have any rooms marked off. I told her that I had thought I marked them off, just played it off as a mistake, and told her I would correct it after break. Then I go find my work friend, let's call her Jessica, and I asked if she remembered seeing me making the bed in one of those 3 rooms, 304 to be exact, when she was walking down the hallway. She agreed that she did, and even pointed out that she stood at my cart and talked to me for a good 2 to 3 minutes while I was doing so. After break, I took her back upstairs and showed her those rooms, and she was in just as much shock as I was that nothing had been done in those rooms. Even indicated that I was in there to clean them. A lot of weird things have happened throughout my life, but this was one of the weirdest things to happen to me yet. Was this a glitch? What do you think? So, that, my friends, was this week's collection of Glitch in the Matrix stories. A collection of stories where the weirdness, strangeness, awkwardness, oddness, and everything else comes together to make an interesting little tale about just that, just stuff that's weird. Yeah. Fantastic collection of stories this week, as always, and it's kind of nice to be back into the groove of things. I swear things will be normal again, and this is the start of normalcy for this channel. Once more, I declare it here on this channel's 4th birthday. That's right, if you didn't hear me in the intro, today is As the Raven Dreams' 4th birthday. On December 4th, 2019, I decided to give something a shot. And here I am a mere 4 years later, 25,000 subscribers in, and I could not be happier. I really couldn't. Thank you to all of you. And thank you to each and every single one of you who listened to this video and got to this point. If you did so, hopefully you liked the video. Sorry, I'm still sick. I know most of you will say I sound fine, but I still hear it. I'm still sick, is what it is. It's going to be a little while. That's COVID for you. Anyways, yeah. If you like the stories, please do hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. If you have, well, thank you. And if you do, thank you as well. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, consider subscribing, as that also helps tremendously. And such. Become part of the 25,000 people that have subscribed. You can also join Patreon memberships, get early access to content like this, as long as it goes up early. I will do my best to get it up early, as quickly as I can. I'm a little slow right now, please do forgive me. I am recuperating, recovering, and doing my best to get back into the groove of things. There's something else that I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, the word of the week. Nope, 2 weeks ago, quite a few of you left me some comments with the word of the week, which was ineffable. Ineffable is a good word, and several of you took advantage of it, and I appreciate that. On the screen now, and several moments prior to now, is a collection of all the comments that I got with the word ineffable from 2 weeks ago's glitch video. If I missed your comment, please yell at me in the comments this week. I do apologize. I tried to get them all, but I feel like I missed at least one. I double-checked, and I didn't see any that I missed, but my brain's also a little foggy right now, so just, yeah. Be patient with me. I'm doing my best here. But each and every single one of these people went above and beyond, left me a comment with the word, and I thank them for it. You're all amazing people. My love for you is absolutely ineffable. This week, the word of the week is a fun one that was not suggested to me by you guys, and I apologize, but I wanted to do a different one because it's a good description of what I'm kind of feeling right now. This week, the word of the week is linger. That's Langur. Make sure you spell it correctly, as I have to find them. If you misspell it and I see it, I'll still use it. It's just that sometimes I use Control F to find them all, as you can see by the highlights on the previous part with everybody. So if you misspell it, I may not see it, but I will try. I will try to look for it specifically, as I do. Anyways, languor means weakness or weariness of body or mind, listless indolence or inertia, some synonyms if it helps: lethargy, lassitude, stupor, torpor, etc., etc. For example, the month of November left me in a major state of languor. The challenges and tribulations that the 1 month chose to throw at me within 30 days were ineffable. I guess. I don't know. You know what I mean. Use the word languor, put it in a sentence. I'll get it next week on the screen. So there is that, my friends. I hope you're all having a gorgeous week so far. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope I see you again here very soon. But until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are important. Do not forget it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And until next time, my friends, much love, and sleep well.